Hi guys, we're here today with Craig from Corella Construction up in Brisbane. We're going to talk to Craig a little bit about different aspects of building and how he deals with things. So Craig, tell us a little bit about I guess an insider's look behind the scenes of how you got into building, what you love about it, and yeah, how you've grown the business.
Okay. So literally I started in the industry as an apprentice carpenter for Hutchison Builders, and literally travelled all around Australia with Hutchies, and to be honest, I jumped out of Hutchies because I didn't feel I was actually learning the trade good enough in the commercial industry. So I jumped in with some resi builders doing renovations and fell in love with that, and have sort of pushed myself into that field, more in the higher end sort of stuff, and literally, yeah, started my own business from that with my wife Ella, and it's just gone leaps and bounds in the last 7 years. So
awesome. So with the quality of work that you're pumping out, you've obviously managed to build a quality team. Like I'm a big believer. Teamwork's a big part of a successful business. Not just about what I can do. It's the people that are on site and in the office and all that sort of thing. So how have you found building your team and getting quality people to work with you?
It's actually quite hard to find. I guess the main thing is trust. You're trusting these people to build your buildings for you when you're not there. Ultimately, if you don't have that trust, it's quite hard.
So guys, a really important part for both sides of a building process, the builder as well as the client, is the quote. Like, we're a big believer in the quote should have as much detail as possible. And by doing that, it eliminates a lot of the issues and difficult situations that can arise on site. So, Craig, how do you deal with your quoting process, and what do you think a good quote should have?
A good quote should have everything in it. Everything that you're putting into that building should be written down. It should be itemised. It should be shown to the client so that there are no surprises, because that's when trouble starts, when the client thinks that they're not getting something that you haven't priced in.
Even though, like, I'm assuming a lot of the work you guys do has a full specification, do you still think it's important on top of that specification, or make your quote maybe refer to items in that specification?
Absolutely, yeah. Even if we get a specification from an architect or another homeowner that's actually given us a scope, we still write and fully do another scope of works for ourselves, and then that scope goes to our supervisors, and that's what they work off, and it might refer to the architectural drawings.
Yeah, so we do a very similar thing, and it's very successful. So basically, for homeowners out there that are wanting to know exactly what's going into their job, a really good quote should also be able to be used for a scope of works for the project. So once the quote's been approved, the client's accepted it, that quote, like Craig mentioned, can then be handed on to whoever's working on that site. The site supervisor knows what's happening, the builder knows what's happening, the client knows what's happening. Even other trades on the job can look at that document and know what it is they're meant to be doing or providing for the homeowner. So guys, it's really, really important when you're getting quotes from builders or tenders that it's not just a single page and you don't just look at the bottom line. Like the price, there's so much more to a quote in there than the bottom line.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Literally, we've lost jobs because people just look at the bottom line and they didn't realise that we've got 20 pages in our quote and the next person's got 2. Yeah. They don't tell them everything. It's not apples for apples.
Yeah, it'd be, like, I've always thought it'd be really, really good to go back and talk to those people that give the go-ahead on a project to those single-page quotes, because you always hear these stories that they turn into nightmares. But
absolutely.
Look, for clients out there that are wanting to build or renovate, take your time. Like, you don't need to rush it. You look for a builder that provides a quality quote. Even if you're looking at finding a builder, maybe get an example of a previous quote off of them that you can have a look at before you give the go-ahead to them for your quoting. Any other advice, Craig, for people that are thinking about building or renovating and looking for builders to quote their work?
Yep, just make sure you read the quote carefully. Like, you have to understand the quote and exactly what you're getting, because if you don't understand it, you need to ask your builder what everything means and how everything works. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it does, if you do it properly and correctly and make it a scope of works, the benefits throughout the job are enormous, aren't they?
Absolutely, it makes the job run smoothly and on time and fast. Like, it can only slow things down when people are unsure of what they're getting and they've got to go out and pick things. Like, all that stuff should be done beforehand. Yeah,
so on top of that, it also makes it really, really good if there's anything that comes up that might turn into a variation, you've got it documented. So if you want to change something, you can look back, you can see, just for example, door handles. If it's documented what type of door handles you're going to get, the builder's got it in a scope of works. If you want to change that door handle, it's very simple to go, well, this is what you're getting, this is what you've got now, here's the cost difference. So there's no arguments, there's no difficult confrontation. So it makes the entire process so simple. So guys, we're going to talk about collaboration. It's really, really important to collaborate on a building project. Doesn't matter what the size of the project, the dollar value, the size of the build or anything. Collaboration gets a good project and a good outcome. So I'm a really big believer in collaboration and building a team right in the early stages. So the old days of homeowners going to a designer or an architect first and sitting down, getting the designs all drawn, what tends to happen is you fall in love with that design throughout the process, and then when it finally comes time to send it out to a builder to get a quote, you send it out to a few builders and then your dreams are shattered because you've got this design that you can't afford to build. By collaborating and interviewing builders and designers at the very early stages and building a team, like finding a builder that you can trust right from the beginning, getting your builder, your architect or designer, your engineer, your energy efficiency expert, all those guys right up front, everyone can collaborate and work together to just make sure it's a brilliant project. So by doing that collaboration, a really big part of making that successful is establishing a budget. As a homeowner or a client, getting that budget out in front of everyone at the earliest possible stage, it makes sure everyone in your team is working towards the same goal, and you will end up getting the absolute best product you can for your money. If everybody in the team is flying blind and doesn't know an end goal that they're working towards, you're going to be designing something that you can't afford or you don't particularly want to build. So, Craig, how do you guys work with collaborating, and do you think that that's an important part of the build?
It is a massive important part of the build. Unfortunately, sometimes, well, most of the time, you just get given plans from a client and it's already finished. And you didn't get to have your say halfway through, and if you changed some things or if you did stuff differently, it could have saved you thousands. So you do miss out on that sometimes, but sometimes when they do meet you at the start and they bring you in on that journey, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think, it's not only that, I think another big part of it is to be successful, you have to find designers and architects, or the builder has to find designers and architects that actually will work with them as a team. You really need that collaboration. We find it works really, really well through that very preliminary design stage. The designer architect flicks us the drawings and we can go, oh, hang on a minute, we do it this way, it's going to save money. So do you guys have that sort of input, and do you think that's important?
We do have that input. We work with a few architects and draftsmen at this point. We do have our own engineer that we work with closely. Before we even when we get concept plans, I'll even sit down with the engineer and go through how I would build it. And sometimes it's easier and cheaper than what the engineer would want to do it as. So it's super important to have that aspect at the beginning of the build. So
yeah, obviously everyone's a professional in their own field. Exactly, so we're professional builders, you have engineers, you have architects, so everyone is good at their particular job. So it really makes sense to have the builder in the team.
Absolutely. It makes sense having everyone there communicating with each other at the start, the whole way through. It can only be a good thing.
Yeah, so what would you recommend to homeowners out there that are thinking of building or renovating? I guess what should they be looking for if they're going to put the trust in a builder at the early stage? Because I guess a lot of people get put off because they think if they put a budget on the table and that they're only working with this one builder, that they're going to get taken for a ride.
Absolutely, but I see that all the time, but it's so not the truth. I think the best thing that I've found, if you can find a builder, most builders will have an architect or a draftsman or engineer guys that work with them all the time. And if you can trust that builder, then that's where the trust and the build starts, is with that aspect straight away. So
yeah, so they really need to be looking around, doing some homework on a builder.
Absolutely.
I guess seeing if that builder's doing the type of work or the type of home that they want.
Definitely.
And then, so that's probably their best starting point, isn't it?
Yeah. Most builders, they've either got Instagram accounts or their Facebook, or they've got good websites. So you should be able to see what quality builds they're doing, and if they're updating their sites every so often. You can actually follow a builder for a long time before you even engage them and see what they do. So
yeah, well, that's really important. Like these days with all the social media stuff we were talking about earlier, like you can actually get a feel for the builder, his personality, how he's going to run his jobs, and that all through social media.
Absolutely.
So by the time it comes to meet, like they already know you.
they already know you. Yeah. They've already seen 100 of your jobs already. So
yeah. All right. So we're going to have a little bit of a talk about what a builder is. We get a lot of questions and a lot of people asking what it is we actually do. There's this sort of old-fashioned misconception that a builder is just a guy that has been a chippy, he's got a nail bag on, and all of a sudden he's running a job. But there's far more to it than that. Craig, do you want to give us your opinion on what a builder actually is and what a builder does?
Yep. It's a good question. What a builder is – ultimately a business person. They're running a business. It's a small business, or we are. I was lucky enough to marry an accountant, which I'll tell you what, in my industry is a huge asset in our company. So, but yeah, the old conception that you're a carpenter, which I am, I'm not on the tools anymore, but it's totally different from working on a job site. The behind scenes, the paperwork, the administration that goes into a house or a design or whatever, it's huge, and it takes up all of your time.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I guess, don't understand just how much a builder does do off-site. So,
Absolutely.
like a builder really, like you're an accountant, you're an engineer, you end up being the designer or architect, you're a
salesman,
problem solver, you're like collaborator, like you end up wearing so many hats.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very important to educate the public that just because a builder's not on their site or answering their call, like that, there's so much more that actually goes on behind the scenes. It's very important and actually keeps what's happening on site moving. So I guess, could you give us a little bit of an insight in your business, like behind the scenes, what does it take you and other staff, like what is it you do?
I would say 90% of my time is putting out fires, solving problems. That's the biggest one. You get 1,000 calls a day with 1,000 problems, and you have to have the answer. That's your job. And a big thing is sales too. Like obviously you're the one bringing the work in. You have to meet clients. You have to discuss projects. There's so many meetings and things that you need to catch up on and do stuff. It's endless.
And then on top of it, like all the quoting. Like
quoting is massive. Quoting, we've got 3 girls in the office that help with that, because ultimately it's just so much work. It's impossible to keep up if you're trying to do it by yourself. Yeah, look, the quoting's an enormous part of it, and like I'm a very big fan and pushing for. I believe all builders should be paid as a professional. That would be amazing if we got paid to do a quote. The amount of hours that you put in to do a quote, and then a lot of the time people don't even call you back when you submitted that quote. So
yeah, like it's very big over in Europe and stuff, but like I'm really pushing here in Australia. I think that a builder, when they get involved in that collaboration at the beginning, like I don't believe it should be charging for the quote. I believe it should be the builder should get paid for their professional, and I guess their IP. Like they're the one that's knows how it's going to be built, knows what it's going to take. They're putting in all the information, they're pulling everything together. And yet the old-fashioned way is we're left out. Like, and we get expected to put this price on a piece of paper to build people's dreams. And yet we're the ones that put the most effort into it. I think there's a lot of benefit if people get that commitment as well. Like if it's not just about us getting paid for our time to produce a quality quote or a quality scope of works, it's about getting that commitment that makes sure we're going to provide them the most amount of detail we can. It gets us involved. We're going to make sure we give the architect good information, make sure we give the engineer, because obviously the benefit of us being involved very early on and getting paid for our time, we're going to make sure that we price and we put that job together so that when we do start building the job, it's done in the best possible way, the shortest amount of time, and ultimately gets the best outcome for the client.
Exactly. I think the best thing with quoting is if you're transparent and you can show your client everything, there shouldn't be an issue.
So Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, we've definitely found in the past that by being transparent and providing such a large amount of detail in the quote, like, they're the best jobs.
Absolutely.
They're happy jobs, happy clients, happy builder, trades are happy.
Yep.
In the past, I know from our experience, the jobs that generally give you a bit of difficulty are always ones where there was no transparency, there was no budget put on the table.
Yeah.
And you're always trying to chase your tail and make up costs. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So guys, we'll give you a little bit of a builder's point of view of some of the things you should look out for when choosing an architect. And again, some of the benefits by having a builder in that team and collaborating, the issues that we can solve. So Craig, what's some of the issues you've come across and how have you managed to solve them?
Yep. So a few of the issues that we're going through now at this point, an architect that we're building a house for, I guess there's a lot of mistakes on the plans. And these are things that should have been picked up at the beginning of the build. You know, the owners have said that the architect sent them the plans and said for them to check it. That's unrealistic. How is an owner going to check the plans? Like, that should be their job. So the issues that arise from it are literally once you start that build is when you start to find all the mistakes. So it's going through all that build and doing that and trying to rectify those mistakes halfway through is hard, but it's achievable, but it ends up costing client more money. So
a lot of those little things, if the owner's creating that team and collaborating, then I know with us, like, we're finding those things during quoting.
Yep.
If you're just getting set of plans to quote or tender and you haven't been involved through that whole design, you're not aware of all those little things. So
especially when an architect gives you a set of plans and they give you a spec doc of 500 pages and they give you a time limit of 2 weeks to price it, there's no way you're going to find everything in there in that time. Like, it's impossible. So
so I guess, guys, that collaboration is really, really important. So getting the builder involved early and I guess by, like, if you're going to the design meetings and you're listening to the designer or architect and the homeowner have discussions, it's another party that's actually there to take notes. And when you do get plans, then it's not just the homeowner, like you yourself can go, oh, actually, this hasn't been changed, like what we discussed at that last meeting. So
we actually already engrossed in the plans. You pretty much already know them.
So it's better for everyone. The architect's going to get more of their jobs built. The builder's going to have more efficient jobs. He's going to have his head around it before he actually starts on site. And the homeowner's actually going to get a lot better product for their money.
Definitely.
So guys, hope you got a lot of valuable information out of our time here this morning with Craig. Thanks very much for your time, mate.
Too easy, buddy.